This week on Reproductive Rebel, we are exploring forgiveness as a form of hormonal medicine. I am joined by the incredible Hanna Kok of I Thrive for a conversation about emotional stories we hold and how they quietly shape our cortisol rhythms, menstrual cycles, and overall hormonal balance. If you've been carrying grudges, replaying old hurts, or feeling the emotional weight of unresolved conflict, this episode is your invitation to soften. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about releasing your body from the biochemical aftermath. We talk about nervous system regulation, emotional repair, somatic healing, and the profound hormonal relief that becomes possible when you finally loosen your grip on old pain. Listen to Forgiveness as Medicine, releasing old stories for hormonal harmony wherever you tune into your podcasts. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so honored to be joined today by Hanna Kok. Welcome to the show, Hanna.
Thank you so much for they could be here. Thank you.
So I had an awesome conversation with Hanna before we got started. We're actually going to do 2 episodes because she is a wealth of incredible information and brings a really unique vantage point to women's reproductive health. So with that, share a little bit with our listeners about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Hanna, and as people maybe wonder what my accent is, it's a real concoction of different things. So I'm from the Netherlands originally, so that's my Dutch accent, but I've been living in South Africa for over 40 years, and that's where my South African accent now also comes through. So that's a little bit about myself. I am a teacher by profession, but I've been studying body-mind connection, being a kinesiologist for over 30 years. Have studied other things like allergies, and also I'm a medical intuitive. So that is a bit about my background. I'm also a mother and a stepmother and a grandmother by now. Mm-hmm. So that also has led to a lot of opportunities for growth, to say politely.
Absolutely. You know? Absolutely. And when we started talking, she was talking about how hormone systems can be out of balance in a very, I'm going to call it a unique way. So with my training in Eastern medicine, this all makes a lot of sense to me. But I would say in the Western world, we typically separate the emotional body and the physical body into different buckets. And you see different professionals for each of these aspects of who you are. And that isn't really how the body works. There's a synergy there. And so I loved Hanna's approach to looking at hormonal imbalances. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to share her and her wisdom on the show.
Yeah. So to build on that, and it's not only the physical and the emotional, but we also have a spiritual aspect. And when we bring that in, we can now bring balance and harmony to the physical and the emotional. And that is very important because those emotions, they throw our hormones out really badly. And people don't understand how it's possible, but I don't know how much are your listeners familiar with meridians? I'm sure with your background, they must know about them, right? But in case there's a listener who doesn't know what a meridian is, it's these energy pathways that run through the body. They are like we have the veins for blood and we have meridians for our life force that circulates through the body. And we have 14 major meridians. 12 of them are linked to organs. And one of them is called the circulation sex meridian, which is linked to the heart sac or the pericardium. And it's linked to our hormonal system. Now, each meridian is influenced by a specific thought pattern. So the circulation sex meridian is directly negatively impacted when we hold grudges, when we're upset with ourselves and other people. And the antidote for it is forgiveness. So we can talk about those two subjects because people think of forgiveness as a religious thing. No, there's so much biology attached to forgiveness. And especially our hormonal system is directly impacted through forgiveness. So.
Oh, I love how you worded all of that. So I've talked about meridians a little bit, like the energetic and I'm going to call it fluid interstate highways in our body. And there are some that are longer than others, and they're prone to having traffic accidents on them is how I like to explain it to my clients. And depending on how severe that traffic accident is, really kind of determines the severity of the symptoms that are a byproduct of that. That can show up as physical pain in the body. So, oh, my shoulder hurts. Oh, my hip hurts. That type of presentation. Or it can be emotional and
Absolutely.
energetic. So emotions are energy in motion. And when we hold these in different parts of our body and we don't give ourselves room to express them and move them, they start becoming symptom patterns. So just that little opening right there, you know why I wanted to have Hanna on the show, because Hanna's work really centers around how there's this really intricate connection between physical expression and the energetic and emotional body and the spiritual body, and how all of these things interplay with one another. My cycle alchemy work works very similarly as well. So tell the audience a little bit about your approach to and how forgiveness is more of a biological function.
Right. Well, I want to give a little bit more also of how and why grudges actually impact our health.
Yep.
Because there are several ways. Just imagine your body, to run your body on a daily basis or to run your life on a daily basis, you have say 10 units of energy. And 4 of those units is what you use to deal with your external world. You know, you go to work, you have your family life, you have time for relationships, all of that. 6 of those units, and it is quite close to those numbers, you know, the ratio. 6 of your units of your energy go to maintaining this body. For the immune system, the digestive system, for repairing, restoring, you know, So 60% of your energy is just for the internal huishouden, the Dutch word that comes for maintenance, basically, for managing it. Now, when you have a traumatic event, a shock event, or a major fight, have you noticed it gets stuck in your head and it keeps milling in your head?
Mm-hmm.
And that takes up a lot of energy. So now your body goes into survival mode because you feel threatened by this situation. Now those 4 units that you have for your daily activities, because you're in survival mode, you're a lot less effective. So you have just work, work, work. Relaxation is out the window because you're so ineffective, there's no time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead of having 6 units for the maintenance, 2 units maybe go to milling over the subject. Now you've got 4 units left. Now, what happens if you have like a building and you don't have enough caretakers and cleaners and, people for repair? It doesn't matter how much of the materials are there, the work is not going to get done. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter if you eat all the right foods and have all the beauty products that we use. If you do not have the energy to fix what needs to be fixed, you're going to fall behind and you're going to have problems. Of course, it helps to have those stuff on site because you maybe can get a little bit more work done. But the biggest problem is you need to release that energy that is now spent on that conflict. And that's where forgiveness comes in. Because that is how we find closure to the subject. Now, for most people think, well, what is forgiveness? I have to now forgive those people that have done this horrible thing to me. No, let's first say what forgiveness is not, and then I'll explain what it is. First of all, forgiveness is not that you come from a moral high ground saying, I'm so good and you're so bad, but I will forgive you out of the kindness of my heart. That's not forgiveness. What is also not that you have to let the people back into your life. Mm-hmm. It is also not something you do because the others have to earn it. They deserve it or not. And there's some other things as well that will come back to me just now. But what is forgiveness is about realizing this happened. I accept this happened. And this is an opportunity for me to learn something. It's an opportunity for growth because, as we can talk a bit later about my book, Bitter or Better, I Decide, it's how you look at the situation. Do I see this as a horrible thing or do I see it as an opportunity for growth? Because those irritating people actually showed me something about me. Mm-hmm. If people treat me badly, it's because actually I am treating myself badly. And then when I've changed myself, the relationship with the other person improves or changes at least. And so I'm actually the only one that needs forgiveness. That's the hardest part. I need to forgive myself for needing that difficult person in my life to show me what I need to change. Mm-hmm. I know that's a hard pill to swallow for many people, but that's the choice we have to make. And then it's about realizing, well, there's not much to forgive. They actually gave me gold because what if I start treating myself with the respect that I want from other people, I can reach my goals. I will be so much happier. So that irritating person gave me what I needed to learn. And so I don't really have to forgive them anymore because they brought me gold. Mm. So that is for me what forgiveness is all about. Now I made peace with the situation. I have control because I can change myself. We cannot change other people very well, no matter how hard we try sometimes. But I have now control back because I can change me. And then I get my 6 units of energy back and my body can start healing itself.
I love that.
The book Bitter or Better, I Decide by Hanna Kok is a practical and uplifting guide to turning life challenges into stepping stones. Bitter or Better shows how to understand yourself, resolve conflict, strengthen relationships, and reconnect with the source of love so you can choose better, not bitter, every day. For more information, go to bitterorbetteridecide.com.
I have a mentor that says, what is somebody reflecting? Like they're a mirror for you. What is it that they're reflecting back to you? That is an area to be curious about inside of yourself. And I see this a lot. I have a challenging relationship with my 17-year-old son. And I always have to look at my interactions with him that way. Like, why is it that what he is saying to me is triggering to me? What is it reflecting back to me? Where is it that I still have room to grow?
Yeah, and what people don't always realize, yes, it's a mirror, but what people don't always realize that it's the mirror often of how we treat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, because people say, well, I'm very polite and I'm very kind and helpful or whatever it is that they see, or I'm a good listener. But how good a listener are you to you? How respectful are you of you when you make a mistake? How kind and helpful are you towards you? Most of the time we're extremely hard on ourselves and we think that's how we need to treat ourselves. We treat ourselves worse than we would treat an enemy.
Yes.
Most of the time.
I did an episode on this a couple of seasons ago, and it was talking about the inner critic and how we're locked inside of our head with that inner critic day in and day out. And that's the voice that we hear the loudest. And how kind are we to ourselves? What is it that we tell ourselves on a regular basis? If you screw something up, are you going, oh, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to grow? Or am I browbeating myself the entire time saying, oh, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? You're a failure, right? And we're all guilty of doing this at some level. And a lot of it has to do with the voices that we heard when we were growing up, right? Who is that voice in your head? Is it a parent? Is it a family member? Is it a friend? Is it like, who is it that started shaping that voice that is you inside of your head? And we tell ourselves some nasty things.
Yeah, absolutely. I also had to learn that. And now my favorite song is by Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. I made a mistake. Let's see what we can do to correct it. And that's it. And you save so much energy not browbeating yourself up first, because your energy goes down. And once you're down in a deep hole, you could dig yourself out. But if you realize, oops, I did it again, you can just straight go ahead, do what you can to correct it. And if you can't, well, dust yourself off and keep going.
Mm-hmm. Dust yourself off and try again. That's another one of my favorite songs.
Wow. Yeah.
So how do you work with people to help them navigate this dynamic in order to help them improve their hormonal health?
Well, I would start when people come for coaching, for example, I would check how are their relationships with a spouse, a child, themselves. And then if it's with the person outside of themselves, we will look at what is reflected back. But what I also do is I have a list of questions that I ask people for history. And we go and start from conception already to now and find out what are particular moments in their life that could have shaped who they are. We forget that a large part, and I don't know if it's up to 80%, I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's a high number. A large part of our personality is already shaped in utero. Mm-hmm. And so what was the energy like with conception? Were you a planned baby, or not? And you often you hear stories of how women trapped their husbands by falling pregnant. Now that child is now being incubated in that energy. Mm-hmm. Or how did the parents respond when they found out they were expecting you? Mm-hmm. If they ran away, then immediately, see, I'm no good. Mm-hmm. Or I'm a mistake. Or later they'll find out, oh, my father wanted a boy and I'm a girl, or vice versa, so you're the wrong gender. All those things, there are so many moments in our life that we reject ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I work with that, do the forgiveness around it. A big thing is the reframing.
Yeah.
To look at that same picture and realize, oh, but there's another picture there. I can look at it from this perspective. Oh, of course I can forgive that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring closure, and then people feel calmer. And then the hormones often settle by themselves, or they all of a sudden find this amazing product that works that they never found before. Sometimes people need something extra. But yeah, that's how I work with them then.
Do you see really big changes in, as I'm asking this question, I'm thinking about it from the fertility perspective, because a lot of times, women are like, oh, I'm having these issues getting pregnant and so on and so forth. Do you find that you see big changes in hormonal health and fertility when you do this kind of work with them?
Well, fertility, there's also a lot of other things that are at play. And I don't know if we're going to talk about that today or in our next episode. But on the period side,
Mm-hmm.
definitely where we immediately see a change is there's less pain, less heavy bleeding, so less PMS. Definitely all of those symptoms reduce. And I even have an app called I Thrive. And I've got specific ones for periods, carefree periods as well, and the whole hormonal system. And some have had, by just listening to those I Thrives, that the period problems go away. Yeah. And I have this gift for your listeners that they can get some of the I Thrives for free, because self-esteem is the foundation, for most things, if not everything. The better we feel about ourselves, the easier it is to be kind to ourselves and others, and the easier it is to forgive ourselves. And that is the subject that I have for them for free.
Oh, thank you. So all of that information is going to be in the show notes, everybody. So make sure that you check this incredible resource out. I think that collectively, women really struggle with self-esteem, and a lot of it has to do with how we're socialized. Growing up, it doesn't really matter what part of the Western world you come from. I'm speaking this as a Western-born person, but it doesn't matter where in the Western world you were born. There are a lot of societal expectations for the performance of female identity that create a lot of negative self-talk in our minds around, at least in my upbringing, that whole seen and not heard, don't be too much, don't be too loud, don't stand out too much. If you wear that dress, you'll get too much attention. And all of that is framed in a way that essentially, being female, you take up too much room and you're too much, and that is a bad thing. And so a lot of our internal conversation gets shaped by these kinds of societal narratives that play over and over again. They get reinforced at different points in our life.
Yeah. The thing is also what has happened now in the last couple of decades is that a lot of women, and I'm definitely one of those, have become too masculine as well. Mm-hmm. We forget that we are women, and then we're trying to be something that we're not. But it's finding a balance, because, sometimes you're just a bit more tomboyish than a girly girl. Mm-hmm. But what is happening nowadays as women, we don't allow other people, and especially our partner, to help us, to support us, to do things for us that they are good at. Mm-hmm. Because then we see, well, we have to do everything ourselves. That we put so much strain on ourselves that will definitely impact our whole hormonal system. Mm-hmm. Because if we are too masculine, the feminine hormones are not going to do their job because we're too busy with the testosterone things.
Yes. Every body, regardless of their assigned at birth gender, embodies masculine and feminine, or yin and yang energy. And depending on how we're socialized, because I also am one of those move through the world in a more masculine energy kind of people. I've always been that way. And it was a few years ago, before we conceived my son, that I realized I really just wasn't giving my husband space to be the guy in our relationship because I was the action-oriented person. I made the plans, I did the thing, I was all everybody's brain. It was just the create and go kind of action-oriented energy, which is more masculine energy.
Well,
And that's great, but I didn't know how to be the feminine partner. I didn't know how to receive. I didn't know how to allow and relinquish control. Control for a lot of women is a safety mechanism. And we move through the world in a masculine energy way because we're trying to protect ourselves, because there haven't been, for whatever reason, the protector energy in our life, whether that is a partner that couldn't show up the way that we needed them to. Maybe you haven't had a partner that has been able to embody that energy. Maybe it's because, you have been violated in some way, whether it's physical or emotional, and holding ourselves in this rigid, controlled posture is a way to keep ourselves safe. Because if I control all the variables, nothing can hurt me, right? Women have to feel safe. Just think about how our bodies are built. We are built as receivers, people. Like our anatomy is for receiving.
yes.
So people who struggle with vaginismus and like overly tight pelvic floors, like it's coming from guarding and trying to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
So when we're in that masculine energy, we're not allowing the receiving, which is our natural flow state. And when we're not in our natural flow state, our hormones can't function the way that they need to.
Absolutely. And this is where the spiritual side also comes in, because, when we realize, hey, I have a spiritual connection, I am part of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a piece of spirit, I'm part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see, that life is for us and not against us. That helps a lot as well. And remember what we spoke about earlier about the mirror, that the way people treat us is a reflection often of how we treat ourselves. So if we're very guarded and aggressive and hard, that is how people will treat us too. So it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy and a stuck record or a stuck situation. And the way to undo that, to unlock us, I would say, if we could just treat ourselves the way we treat our children, and especially our young children. When they get older, they can be very irritating, and we're not always that kind to them, but when they're all sweet and, then if we would treat ourselves like that, the world would be so much more a friendly place. That we understand hurt people. And everything is either an act of love or a cry for love, really. And when we start looking at that, it's not a personal attack. It's a cry for love. And that's why they say these ugly things. And they looking in the mirror, they just see something in you that they see in themselves. So it's not a personal thing. Yes, it's always good to still look at, is there truth to it? And we can then do something with it, but it's not a personal attack. They just hurt him. If we can start looking at other people like that, and at the same time, we then also look at ourselves like that is how we're going to turn things around. We want peace in the world. It starts with inner peace. Any way we're going to create that peace we want to see out there.
Absolutely. There's a Buddhist tenet that if you take care of what's inside your mind and your heart and inside of your household, that that is the beginning of change that ripples out to the world. So when you take care of your side of the street,
Absolutely.
You can't
Absolutely.
go wrong.
That's why, to come back to the self-esteem side. So these are audios, the iThrives are audios that people can listen to while they sleep or go about their day. So the great thing is no active listening is required. So when people say, I don't have time for this or that, well, it takes 2 minutes to put it on, if that, and you just play them in the background. You can play them audibly if you want to hear what I'm saying, but you don't have to. And that way you build a strong foundation of starting to love yourself, forgive yourself, letting go of anger and frustration and judgment, and replacing them with love, joy, peace, and kindness. And all the people have to do is go to my name, hannakok.com, and then they can sign up for it and have immediate access to it.
I love that. So if you were to leave our listeners with a final thought around improving essentially their relationship with self, what would that be?
The app is a great start. If we want to change the relationship with self, it's important that we change the way we think about ourselves and we change the way we talk to ourselves, because the way we think about ourselves will determine how we talk to ourselves. And the app is a great tool for that. And just to give you an illustration of what it did for one of my clients, she was actually an addict. She was in a safe house at the time, got rid of her addiction, but that she had done that 3 times before and fell back 3 times before. And since she then used the iThrives, that was the first time she knew she was not going to fall back. Because something really changed fundamentally. Because if we don't change the subconscious programming that we've been holding on to, which we cannot access with words consciously, they have to go into the subconscious. That one is when we see lasting change. And the app can be a great tool for that.
I love that. So like I said earlier in the episode, the information for iThrive is in the show notes. Please check out Hanna's generous gift and take a look at, experience, listen to these beautiful opportunities to help shift your subconscious programming. And Hanna will be joining us again. She graciously agreed to come back on the show. So make sure that you subscribe, follow whatever platform you found us on so that you can be sure to catch our next episode together. And until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist, Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.